Hey, everybody, welcome to Hear Us Out. I'm Patrick.
And I'm Paul. How's it going?
Very good, my friend. We're going to talk about technology, but not in the boring way. In the is it good, is it bad? Am I scared of it? Am I excited for it? And how it's going to affect the thing that we talk about on this channel. And the thing we talk about on this channel, Paul, is movies. Well, we talk
Yes.
about entertainment in general, but sorry, I'll adjust my camera. I messed that up. Um, I think with Apple Vision Pro hitting the shelves, and I say hitting the shelves mockingly almost, because it costs 4 grand and they're only making a certain number of them. Not that many people are actually going to experience it, but I don't think it's going to be the last. Apple Vision Pro, for anybody who doesn't know, is the big mad headset that you'll have seen around the place. I'll pull up a
Yeah.
little picture because Mark Zuckerberg's in on the act. You know, Meta wanted to do a whole lot of AI. Apple are calling this spatial computing. So it's a computer you wear in your head. It's not AR or VR, it's spatial computing. Who are they kidding? It's a mix between VR and AR in a headset.
Yeah.
But it does beg the question, what's the future of movie consumption? What's the future of entertainment consumption? And Paul, to talk about it, we thought we'd take a little roll back, way, way, way back to the start, and acknowledge, acknowledge that technology's been changing. So there's never been a time when technology hasn't affected not just what you're seeing on screen, but how you see it, the screen you watch it
Mhm.
on. And a couple of images I pulled up, Paul, are the biggest change for everybody. Everybody always thinks, what's the biggest change in cinema? Was it going to color? No, it was going to sound.
Yeah. The actual introduction of sound in movies was one of the biggest changes. We haven't done anything revolutionized as much as silent movies to sound.
Talkies. Yeah.
Yeah. So like that's been the biggest evolution. As much as everybody goes, well, what about 3D? Not as good.
No.
But like, yeah, it's the biggest evolution we've ever done in kind of moving pictures. So
It's a huge
what a
jump.
great
Huge, huge jump.
yeah, like what a great innovation. Like
It changed the game. Although there is one thing, I have never got to do this. And Paul, if there's ever a chance, I'm dragging you with me. If we can go and watch an old silent movie live somewhere with someone playing a piano, I want it so much. I want to
that would
do
be
that.
that would be so good.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
I,
so good.
and
Yeah,
that's the exact tune that's in my head. And there's definitely, it's going to be Buster Keaton train track type thing.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, it'll
It's
be
the
amazing.
one you want. But, you know, Paul, it didn't just stop there. So look, screens, fidelity, all these things change. Then there was the advent of home movie, essentially, thanks to TVs becoming, I'm going to say, they weren't commonplace at the start, but becoming a realistic option. The advent of, well, I can get a TV in my house and actually watch these things that before that I would have had to go to a cinema or go to, the local hall that had rented a screen and was doing a projector. That changed the game massively. Then home theater came along and changed things even more. You know, what went from being, well, you've got a TV set which can show TV movies. Well, you're not going to get the same cinematic experience. The natural next evolution was, yeah, I'm going to have, remember back in the 80s, it was like, oh, my theater room where they would
Yeah,
have the like projector screen, their big expensive speakers. Then it became flat screen TVs, and I don't mean just flat screen. I mean they were still big, deep projector TVs
yeah,
with flat fronts that you had to bury into a wall into the next room. It was crazy stuff, but
like
it all kept moving.
yeah, like the biggest one of that home entertainment kind of home theater thing really evolved well because of the miniaturization of projectors, and also the digitizing, like not digitizing, but minimizing of the obviously the data storage device as well, because you didn't have these massive reels of 35 millimeter or 70 millimeter film anymore. You were able to have like kind of cartridges and videos and stuff like that were able to project, which made home theaters a lot easier to go. Except for the CRT things, yeah, as you said, like they're
The big, big, deep ones. Gosh, I remember
I have a
somebody.
house from my TV.
Yeah, I do remember going to somebody's house and they had actually put a hole in their wall so it would look like it was flat, but like they did actually go into the closet in the next room where the back of the TV was actually still hanging. It was quite sad, really. Um, I you know like we got to call it out. The home viewing experience changed when things like, once upon a time, everybody's like, I got a surround sound system. Now everybody just wants a sound bar and a woofer,
Yeah.
because everybody has gotten more accustomed to, I'm going to watch streaming on my smart TV, and all I need is a sound bar and a woofer. Because the TVs, the resolution has gotten crazy. Their size versus their cost has exponentially changed. Because I remember buying a 15-inch TV once because that's what I could afford, a little CRT, and now, the same money will get you 65-inch full HD smart TV and a
Yeah.
soundbar probably. So the home thing changed, and the reason I'm kind of rattling through all that is it also changed how movies were made. Things started changing because there was straight to DVD or straight to video. There was made for TV. There was, we will do this to a budget. We know it's not actually going to be seen on a huge screen. Even big screen movies starting to be slightly optimized that it will still be okay in the home experience. So the technology that seemed like it was giving people more in the background started taking away slightly in some cases. And that's the thing that nobody ever mentions about all these great innovations.
Yeah, the stream fodder movies have really kind of removed a lot of kind of, I guess, great innovations that have happened. Obviously, there's still purist directors who specifically still design their movies towards kind of the theater experience and stuff. Obviously, Michael Bay is one of them with his IMAX cinema cameras. James Cameron is the same, and Christopher Nolan. But yeah, the home movie kind of setup has really kind of reduced it because you need to take an account of kind of the sound systems and audio systems, and obviously then the pictures and stuff, on how to kind of develop it. And it's made essentially the way that they make films a lot more kind of like compartmentalized, in the sense of kind of going, well, this will be eventually on a streaming service and stuff. So, and then yeah, the straight to streaming movies like Six Underground.
That was the one that was in my
Um,
head. I love you, Ryan Reynolds.
but
What?
why? It's an action film that's designed for streaming, so it's designed for home cinema, but it's not great. If you put it up on the big screen, it's probably kind of like, not quality wise, but it's just, I don't know. It's not a great film to see in the theater, I
I
guess.
would I would say quality where it matters wise. It's not a theater level movie, even though technically they'd used a decent camera and they'd mic'd and sound edited everything. But there's so many fun technological dead ends, and there is some that are not even dead ends, loose ends. So like 3D is hilarious for me. 3D TVs, because there was the original 3D little paper glasses, all that good stuff. That had its place in the movie going experience, and it was a bit a lot of schlocky horror and some other random stuff using 3D, and then at home you could do the same, like Nightmare on Elm Street 3, Freddy 3D.
Yeah.
I remember watching the whole movie is in 3D. The parts of it that were in 3D where you put on the glasses and everything 3D back then involved this. Make sure it goes at
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
camera. Make sure that's what 3D is for. It's something coming at you.
Yeah. Have an axe fly at you towards you, kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah, Resident Evil, whichever one that was the first time I'd seen IMAX 3D, and I was like, this is amazing, and it worked really well. And then one of the bad guys threw a big hammer or an axe, and I was like, yeah, but it's still being used for a lot of the same stuff.
Yeah, because I think the first one I saw with an actor was Blood Valentine or something. It's about that mine or something, horror movie,
Oh,
and they throw a pickaxe, and I was just like, oh, scary.
yeah.
Haven't seen that like 300 times.
Although I wouldn't I wouldn't be able to sleep tonight if I didn't mention the ultimate, which was Jaws 3D. Yeah, the worst of all the Jaws movies. Well, no, the Jaws Revenge is probably worse. Anyway, one of the other two bad Jaws movies. I still think Jaws 2 is okay. People hate me for that opinion. As a Jaws purist, I will defend the sequel. I just won't defend the sequels. There you go.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That makes sense.
But there was a time there when that's what 3D was. Then
Mhm.
3D started getting better in cinemas, and becoming more appropriately used. And around the same time, shooting things in 3D and the idea of 3D TVs, where you would, you wear the thing. And lots of people watching this right now will have 3D TVs. I'm not picking on you. I think they're cool. And, content that's created for them is great. But it never took off the way that it was intended to or hoped to. And I think part of that was expense and the unnecessary nature of, well, not everything's going to have to be made for 3D. Not everything should be made for 3D.
You're being very kind. I think it's a gimmick. If you own a 3D TV, it's a waste of money.
And there go our views.
Have you noticed? There's not a lot of 3D movies anymore.
Yeah.
It's because it was a gimmick. It becomes popular and then it goes away. It's a cool technology to be able to develop for home kind of viewing and stuff like that. But I'm not a fan.
Do you know
myself?
The one thing I will say, I saw Up in 3D. And we're not talking about the start because I don't want to cry. But there's a moment in Up. For those of you who have never seen Up, watch it. The start will make you cry. But there's a guy whose house is floating and he's got to go and chase it. If you've seen the poster, you get it. But there is a moment where this old man sees where he's trying to get to and it looks far away. And that was the first time I remember going, yeah, 3D's worth it right now, because I felt the distance. Because the key, apparently, unbeknownst to me until I saw it, wasn't about having the pen come at you, Paul. It was about, gosh, I have a long way to go.
Yeah.
The other direction
field was a lot. Yeah, the depth of field thing, perspective and stuff would be a good one to see more of.
Well, we've got Brian in chat saying his dad had a 3D TV and it was rubbish. I like that had. So also a lot of people I know have had 3D TVs and they don't ever seem to last. I don't know if that's they break down or if they were so expensive that you weren't getting all of the other features that then became something you wanted on the next TV that you were going to get. Like, were you getting a 45-inch 3D when you really needed 55 inches with better sound? So you got sick of it after a while and then upgraded?
Yeah, I'd be interested in seeing if people in the comments down below and stuff, like, if you had a 3D TV and you got rid of it, why?
Why?
Was it the movie? Because I did think you did have to buy specific movies for it as well, which I think is like an added expense. So I'd be interested in seeing.
Putting on glasses, I've gotten older now, and I need glasses for certain things, and that's a pain in the neck. The idea of putting on glasses to sit down in my home, it's a different story when I go to something IMAX 3D. Loved seeing Gravity in IMAX. I love all that kind of stuff. Grand in a theater, it's a once-off. You put on your glasses, and it's working for the screen that's there, but not at home. Not at home.
Yeah.
But I guess, Paul, the point here is, and we'll move on to actually maybe IMAX next. The point here is that all of the technological changes they weren't just one way. They had, an effect on how you were consuming it, but they also had an effect on what people were creating for you to consume. And I think IMAX and 4DX, which I finally got to experience after years of you telling me to try it, Paul, I tried it for Godzilla -1. What a good choice that was.
That was a good choice.
It really was.
Very good.
That opening scene, oh yes, it was a good choice. I'm into that. Again, they're theater experiences, and it's going to come up again in a moment. One of the reasons it was such a good theater experience to see that in 4DX is the other people in the cinema being moved around and shaken and having stuff blown at them too. It's going to be a feature in a moment. IMAX is an amazing screen, but it's an amazing screen that isn't in my house.
Yeah. You don't have the expense of a massive screen.
Yeah.
Every time you turn it on, it's just like, well, I'm not eating tonight or this month.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, the IMAX cinema system is just fantastic. It's definitely developed for both 3D and also just very clear, very nice visuals. And then on top of that, it generally has an audio kind of method to it as well, which is also fantastic.
Yeah,
4D is just fun.
You want to tell our viewers to go tell them that they were stupid if they have a 3D TV. I'm willing to burn the other bridge. Anybody sitting at home right now saying my Dolby Atmos speakers, I've set it up so well in my house that it's better than the cinema. To that, I would say you've been going to the wrong cinema. There is, it's a lie that we've all told ourselves when we spent the extra $50 on the soundbar or whatever it is. "Oh, this is nearly as good as the cinema." It isn't. It just isn't. I went to the cinema last weekend for the first time in weeks, Paul, and as the sound blip for Dolby, my wife was sitting with me and she heard me because she said it afterwards. It just did it. It made the noises and did all the things, and I muttered, "I'm home." Because I missed it that much. I have never
Wow.
gone to the cinema for the visuals as much as I have gone for the sound. And it's why I'm very picky about my seats and stuff.
Hmm.
Don't lie to yourself or your friends if you say your home sound system is better than the cinema. Unless your second name happens to be like Mr. Odeon and you live in
Yeah.
the cinema.
Yeah, if you're not Musk or something like that, like that you could afford an IMAX in your house. Yeah, it's just not. But I definitely understand the criteria of kind of building. See, I like, as much as I hate kind of like people who are just like, I don't go to the cinema, I have a home cinema theater. It's like you're trying to mimic what's there. Just go there. But
But
it's I'm also happy that people are trying to mimic it, because like a
that's
dream of
good.
mine is to have my own cinema as well, kind
Of
of thing. So
course. Of course. Yeah, no, not hating anybody here, but I think, and as we go on to the next bit of tech, I think it'll all become clear why these were brought up. I just want to call out that Brian's come back with this is on 3D TV. I think he upgraded. There were glasses. Okay, so glasses may have been part of the issue. Watching sport was pointless on the 3D TV. I did enjoy Shrek 3D on that TV. I've actually seen some of Shrek 3D on another friend's TV. Um, Godzilla was fantastic. It really is. Godzilla minus one is a must see. Best film last year. I think I've decided for myself. It's my pick now. Gravity was awesome on IMAX 3D, and to that I would say Gravity was. And I don't know if I've ever considered even watching it at home, because I remember going to Gravity in 3D IMAX, going, "This is brilliant as an experience."
yeah,
But I didn't leave the theater going, "That's one of my new favorite films. I can't wait to watch it at home." It was very much made with that viewing experience in mind.
yeah, it was, because I didn't get to see it in the cinema. I didn't get to see it on my home TV. I hate that movie because I was just like, this is pointless. What is this movie? Kind of thing.
It's
And
completely
it's
pointless without the
yeah,
IMAX
it's
3D.
completely, yeah. Like I was just like at the end of the movie, I was just like, it would have been better if I just saw this in IMAX.
Yeah.
I was literally just like, it was like it's this is way better.
Oh,
This is so
I
like
didn't
I'm not
know
a
that you'd
fan.
missed that out. Oh, you know what? I'm always picking those movies that if we ever get to rent a cinema out, what would I do? And oh, Dread 3D is called out here. Dread 3D,
Yeah.
amazing, just brilliant.
Yes.
And he, Brian, you put that in just as I was about to say. I'm always saying that if we could rent a theater, Dread is the movie that we'd use, and it would be IMAX Dread 3D. Well,
Yeah.
I got to say, Gravity would be the other side of that double bill. It is a wonderful experience because it's not that wonderful a film, to be fair to it,
Yeah.
but it
Oh,
works on a big 3D screen.
yeah, and that's probably what we're kind of getting at, is the fact is that with technologies kind of advancing towards kind of bringing you an experience at home. There's these technologies that have been developed, and movies that have been developed specifically for the theater experience, especially this 3D IMAX kind of visual stuff. So there's as you said, experience movies or event movie things that are kind of like being put out there, that it's just like, you can watch this at home, but it's not going to be as good as on the IMAX. Like Avatar was a big one of those as well. The first Avatar was a big one of those kind of like
Oh gosh, yeah.
visual spectacles on the IMAX system and stuff. I know that Michael Bay is saying that the Transformer films were also big spectacles for IMAX and stuff like that, but also able to watch them at home because, like, it's Michael Bay. He's not going to really kind of be an absolute purist.
There'll be explosions.
Yeah, a lot of them. But yeah, so like it's although the technologies have moved towards kind of bringing you an experience at home, there's still movies that are developed for the big screen, specifically the big screen and the experience that it brings, kind of thing, which takes away, I guess, from your home experience. Because as I say, Gravity was not as fun a movie watching it at home as it probably was on the big screen. So
I have not watched it since, and I never plan on watching it unless you say that we've got the IMAX to ourselves and we're gonna throw on a movie. Then I'll be like, cool. If we haven't got Dread, let's do Gravity. Well, Paul, let's quickly drop over to before our ad break. We've got a couple of minutes, and we can come back to this after. Apple Vision Pro. It really has captured everybody's imagination. Now, very much people are thinking of it as their laptop and their phone, which I have completely understand. So you're able to have this augmented reality where you can have your virtual keyboard and all these wonderful screens. But the other side of that is, oh yeah, and you can watch YouTube on it or Apple TV or whatever else. Like this is how you could now watch movies. And when I heard that sentence, I was like, whoa, whoa, whoa. What, why? Why would you choose it as your movie watching experience? I understand when you're working on your phone, working on a computer, you're doing your own personal stuff. But the big thing, and I've said this 1,000 times, Paul, the big thing about theater is the audience. And one of the worst things about the home experience is the idea that we would now cut the home and anybody else who's possibly in that home out to then have a virtual theater strapped to our face.
Yeah, because it's a bit of a weird one because if you want to try mimic, I guess that home the cinema experience with others in that space, you're gonna have to buy another one, and somehow kind of link them together so that when I look,
And
it
even if you
seems weird.
that's weird.
It's still, but it's even buying two and then somehow linking them. That's still probably a very singular experience because
Yeah.
you're still wearing this massive headset, kind of thing. So it'll be interesting to kind of get into that further. But I think we need to go for a little bit of a break.
We do,
So,
and join us after this little ad break because I'm going to tell you the other thing I haven't mentioned yet that makes me really think that these headsets could ruin cinema forever. So we will see you in a moment. Before there was Stranger Things. Before there was Chris Pine. There was Homebrew Quest. Hang on, that doesn't make any sense. Let me start again. YouTube is great for watching Hear Us Out, but what if you'd like a bit of D&D in your life? Homebrew Quest are a bunch of brilliantly creative Irish folks playing a homebrew Dungeons & Dragons campaign inspired by Irish mythology. But even more inspired by the brews they're drinking in each episode. Ireland's supposed to be the land of saints and scholars, but it's also got drinkers and YouTubers, one of which might look a tad familiar. So get yourself over to Homebrew Quest and join the adventure. Links in the description down below, or search term Homebrew Quest. Tell them Hear Us Out sent you. Alright everybody, we're back. I think, Paul, to put it bluntly, my big tease beforehand is not just that you're missing the people around you. I think there is something great about being immersed in something that you're not immersed in. This is going to sound weird, but if you wrap on just Oculus or whatever it might be right now and you use it as your theater, you can move your head around and have it stay with you, or you can have your head around and move your head around in a virtual theater. But it's not all there. There is something about being in a room and having the room fade away when you're watching something brilliant. That immersion where the story, the telling of the story, the visuals, the sound, whatever it might be, are grabbing you and pulling you into screen. I have had so many wonderful experiences, even at home, watching a movie and then having a moment of realizing, crikey, I'm in a room. Whereas if you put me in a virtual space, I'm already doing that leap and then watching something in it. I'm like, oh, well, none of this is really here, and now I'm watching something.
Yeah, I get your point. That is, it's fantastic when you can forget where you are. We can forget where you are and be kind of completely immersed in what you're seeing and the story that you're being told. But as a visual, as a virtual space, it's not that. I don't think it's that you automatically are accepting that you're not there and stuff like that. I think it's more the fact is that in the back of your head, it's the fact is that this isn't real, and that bleeds into the experience of the movie.
You're
a little
suspending
bit.
another disbelief in your suspension of disbeliefs.
Yeah, like which like when you're removing that kind of limiters on your minds and imagination while you're watching a story, it kind of like closes your vision around everything and kind of lets you focus on it. I think when you're in a virtual space, yeah, you can't. It's like a negative, like what is it? Like a negative and a negative is a positive. Like
Yeah.
it just takes it away too much and causes you to just be like, yeah, none of this matters, kind of thing. Which is, yeah, it's just, I think it dampens the experience. Um,
Do
I
you?
think also the we've talked about this before. Since cinemas are a very kind of commutative kind of experience, I definitely think that and experiencing it is there's an energy in the room with everybody else in it. I could not imagine. We were talking about how I watched Gravity at home, compared to 3D movie kind of experience. Could you imagine watching which is oh my
The
god,
Quiet Place?
yeah, A Quiet Place, like in a virtual space, um like
No.
like that's such a communicative
I
experience.
don't even like imagining watching that. In like, genuinely, I
So
literally feel uncomfortable at the idea of watching. Because when I saw The Quiet Place, it's a great film. I still rate that. It's just one of the best cinema experiences I've ever had. It was because of the film, but it was also because I was in a fairly full theater, and I loved the feeling around me. Every twitch and movement from everybody else, and that feeling of regret and remorse when someone made a sound. You could almost hear the unspoken apology of, oh, I touched
yeah,
the popcorn. And it made us, not just me, it made us in the movie. And that can never be replaced. That's the one thing we've always talked about. This comes up every time I bang on about my. I'm not a luddite and I hate technology, and I'm fine with streaming and I'm fine with TV and all that stuff, but theaters are cathedrals. They are the church in which I like to go, and it's because of the other participants there, and that
yeah,
makes everything so much more special.
yeah. It's just that it's like it's an energy, and that's like I'm not one to talk about energies and stuff like that, but it's the best way to describe it. It's that you're all focused on watching this one thing together and stuff, and you get, as you were saying, you get pulled into it,
Yep.
but everybody gets pulled into it at the same time, and it's all kind of like everybody's experienced the same things and everything. Yeah, but that makes sense when you're watching Quiet Place, and the fact is that you put your hand in a bag and it makes a rustling sound. Everybody tenses, everybody clenches together, kind of thing, and they're just like, "Stop moving your bag. Nothing's gonna happen."
Nope.
But together we've all accepted the premise that if you make a sound, you will die and you will kill everybody around you. That it makes that kind of thing happen. Not to say that these technologies of kind of virtual reality, kind of cinemas and stuff like that, are all bad.
Nope.
It's just that as people who love theaters and the communicative side of it, it's really important to kind of show that and focus on that. I think that this is very good for a certain type of introverted person who may not like being around too many commuters but wants to have a cinema experience. I
Fair
do
enough. Yeah.
urge people who have that who have that kind of need, definitely look into these technologies and stuff like that. But for people who are doing it because they think it's the cheaper option, or they think
Yeah.
they think it's just better in some way, like the sound system that is better than the sound system at home, it's just not going to be. And the fact is that, like, yeah, it's going to be weird when I'm sitting beside you, also with a headset on, looking around, kind of thing, and it's just not together. We're not in the same, like, we're in different two virtual rooms,
Yes.
like,
And
and one
this
physical room, but
and the idea of, oh well, you can always join it so that you can look to the seat next to you, and the avatar of Paul, your avatar will be sitting beside me, and we're both watching. No, 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 not the same, not the same. Now again, I'm not against connective technology or any of that. I'm very specifically talking about watching movies, and theatrical releases, and thinking that this is a replacement. And I want to throw to the comments really quickly, Paul, because Brian said, "I thought the thought of watching a movie on a headset makes me sad." That's exactly why we're talking here. Made me sad too. Paul, it's not. It's a grim thought just in that basic sentence. But the other point, never mind the uncomfortable factor of having one of those things in your head for 2 hours. There is that. There is also the physical reality of I go to the cinema and I set myself up when I sit down. Things get put in the places. Jacket or hoodie gets, adjusted to the right way. If it's too cold in the room, I might have it so that I can pull it around my waist or whatever.
Yeah.
I'm full of my own adjustments. And I like being able to have a certain amount of control over my environment. Yeah, if I'm sitting at home and I'm going to end up doing this to my movie screen or rubbing it in because one of the rubber bits is just making my cheek too hot or are my ears heating up, to hell with that. And 2 hour movie. When's the last time there was a 2 hour movie?
Yeah.
A 3 hour movie, more like.
Yeah. Like, could you imagine watching the Snyder cut of? Yeah, I immediately had to jump to the longest
4 hour
movie that we
movie.
have. Yeah, like that. That would just be. It would be. You would have. It would be episodic. The
Yeah,
the
you would break it.
6 hour movie would just be episodic.
It's
The
true.
Irishman would be a completely different movie if you have to It'd be like in an operation theater where that nurse comes in, and they're just like, you're just like, can you dab my brow?
Oh yes.
It's just like dab. I've been watching a 3 hour movie like.
Yeah,
Um,
and look, to hell with it, because it's never going to be a replacement for cinema, in the sense of it'll never be an adequate replacement. However, there was a time when we thought streaming movies wouldn't be a thing the way they are now. Budgets for streaming movies. Streaming has changed an awful lot of things, and people do want to consume differently. And the extra concern I have with this spatial computing as opposed to, VR. So that augmented reality thing where you can still see, but you can have screens. We're already, and I'm not quite alone, but I know I'm in the minority of, I'm not sure that, double screening is a good thing when you're trying to watch a movie. There's a lot of people that say, "I'll watch a movie and I'm on my phone and I'm live tweeting it or whatever." It's fine if it's a bad movie or if it's something that you can't engage with or something you've seen before. But this kind of understanding now of, oh well, if I was sitting at a train station, I could watch the movie while also still, seeing if my train has arrived or checking out if a hot person walks by that I want to ask for their number. And also I can still have my messages up here. And they say this like it's a good thing. Don't get me wrong. You're watching us, you're listening to us like it's a podcast. Knock yourself out. It's all good, everybody. But movies, a full story that's supposed to be told to you, having one eye on your messages and another eye on whether or not the bus is coming up the road, not the prime way to do it, in my opinion.
Yeah, like I'm a big advocate to second screening in a sense of watching movies that you've seen hundreds of times to kind of
Exactly.
take that piece of your brain to be able to be just like, I'm going to focus on this, but I need my other side of my brain to be able to watch something so it doesn't get in my way, kind of thing. But yeah, could you imagine watching any movie that you're watching for the first time should never be done on multiple screens? And I'm saying this as a person who's sitting here with three screens, kind of thing. I always put, if I'm watching a movie on my setup, I always put it in the center screen. I clear all the other ones away. I just focus on the movie. Like, if any secondary movies that I've watched 100 times, like Dread, I'll put it on the second screen while I'm working in a way, and it's just to distract my brain. But God, yeah, imagine watching any new films. Dune Part 2. Could you imagine watching that with, like,
Oh,
you'd miss half the stuff, kind of thing. So it's just, I I think it's just a bad idea to do that, like advertise for that. I also think advertising this as a replacement to cinema or to movie watching is such a big thing that that Apple should just avoid. They
mm.
should be very much going like, "Hey, after going to the cinema, you can watch your movies here." Kind of. I know they'll never do that,
But
but advertising it as a genuine replacement for cinemas is just no.
that's the thing, and in fairness to Apple, I don't think they've tripped over my angry tripwire just yet. But some of the commentators have. You can have as big a screen as you want. This is great. It's like having a cinema in your house. And that's a phrase that, unless you have a cinema in your house, you don't have a cinema in your house.
Yeah.
Stop it. Stop. Just.
Yeah. But this is the thing. There's some Apple marketing person who's just like, let's just mention movies because other, and then show the sizes of the screens because then the viewer will make the leap,
Yeah.
kind of thing. That's my problem is that they were, although they're just like, yeah, you can watch movies on it. Look how, and then they go, look how big the screens can be. They definitely were just like, let's show you can have a cinema in your home without saying that you can have a cinema in your home.
It's
And
true.
that marketer needs to be shot.
They must be stopped, Paul. They must be stopped.
Yeah. No, of course.
No. I'm saying I shot absolutely. But
Um,
yeah. But just very briefly back to that audience idea. There's so many things that we haven't even covered, and I don't think we'll go into them all now. But everybody will have an experience, even in their own home, of watching a movie with friends, or having somebody, even when watching TV, having somebody say something about what's on there. A friend comes over to watch some TV with you, whatever. You're with family, you're at home for the holidays, and everybody's watching, the child appropriate movie because there's a full age range there. Sometimes it's about the interruption. Usually you wouldn't want it, but sometimes it can add to the experience. And that kind of goes away if people get used to the idea of, well, I consume content the same way that I do my work on my machine, my laptop, your three screens, my screens here. The idea that it's just another screen. That's the cinema might be my cathedral, but the small local church of that sitting room or TV room or whatever you call it where you keep your TV, that's kind of a sacred place a little bit too. Because I do like TV. I'm not just a movie fan. I think entertainment should be given its fair share of reverence and given time to be enjoyed. And if you're lucky enough to have somebody else there that will watch it with you, because a lot of people will leave the room when I put things that I'm interested in on, you shouldn't minimize that. And VR, AR, spatial computing, it's all just not really going the right direction for me. And I hate to say it, I think it's something that could become really popular because today is as worse as it's ever going to be. Apple Vision Pro is the start, not the end.
yeah, like the connection towards stories is a very personal, emotional connection towards it, but the viewing experience is very better as a commutative thing. Um, these technologies essentially solo like make everything solo experiences entirely. Like being able to watch a movie together, you make a connection with the movie and different to the person who's next to you, and then at the end of it you get to have that communicative kind of discussion. But the thing is that you've both been at the same event, kind of thing, whereas this makes it very to me it makes it very sterile.
Yeah.
It's sterilizing the kind of movie kind of viewing perspective, and I think that's not. I'm worried about this technology emerging further and further into kind of like the entertainment viewing kind of side of things. And I do think that I think it has its place. It has its place with people and stuff like that who do have issues going out to big to
Yep.
cinemas and with lots of people around, no problems. Um, but yeah, I think from my personal experience of loving the cinema, loving the actual viewing and stuff like that, this feels like a very sterile experience. Now, if you mix the two and you're okay with going to the cinema and then also you're watching it afterwards, I think that's probably the best scenario with this technology I can see.
Well, Paul, we'll head to wrap up and with a simple question or two, I think, because if I said to you, what's one of your favorite technological advances in how we can consume media, and you're not allowed to choose colorization or talkies, they're just too much of a given. What would you pick? Because there is so much to choose from. Like I'm a big fan of sound bars. In fact, it sounds like I was giving out about them. I like the idea of you're accepting that it's only home sound, and you only have so much room and so much money.
I like funny enough, I do think it's my favorite technological advance would be streaming.
There
And
you
like
go.
forgetting the fact that we're being oversaturated with a lot of movies and a lot of TV, because that's the part I don't like. The access to movies and TV is so much vastly bigger. Because if you remember when you were like a cable, like there was people who didn't have cable like TV and stuff like that. They didn't have any kind of like ability to watch any like other TV. HBO is probably one of my biggest gripes for that kind of stuff, where they were very their cable TV was very closed off.
Yeah.
Hundreds of people, like millions of people, didn't get to watch West Wing and stuff like that when it came out. Kind of thing. I think that's the reason why I like streaming is the access, the availability to larger people. I think to larger amounts of people. I think like for stories
I
and
completely
stuff.
get that. And I think as an extension, obviously I would choose YouTube because I just love YouTube and everything that it's given us. But from just a pure hard physical tech point of view, I do love large format flat screen TVs becoming available to people. The idea that you don't have to just have enough room to have a home theater system, even in a crappy flat, if you're able to afford it, or get yourself some decent-ish equipment, you can sit down. Now, Gravity is a good example where you will not get the full theatrical experience, but you can't go and see every single film in the cinema. So it is nice to go. I missed it in the cinema, but I'm still getting an approximation. And if the storytelling and its production is good enough, you can still really enjoy it. Now, you can't go to every film. I just want to avoid the future where people are like, we don't need cinemas anymore because we've got streaming and headsets. I think it
Yeah,
has to be that thing where what's the best way to do this? It's out there with people. If you miss it, what's the next best thing? It's in here on as good a tech as you can get your hands on with people. What's the next step down from that? Okay, look, if you really live in a place where there is nothing but you in a box and you only have enough room for a headset, fine, fine, not an issue. I just don't know if I trust that that's how this will end up being marketed long term, because phones and literally the all glass all screen phone, if you remember the world before it and the world after it as to how people viewed any interaction with technology, it's night and day. And this is the next one of those things that could happen. Because once they get it down to it being in something the size of sunglasses that you can wear all day long without ever having to worry about it and carry around battery packs, then it'll be like the first iPhone. It'll be like, look, no more buttons, everybody. Flick,
yeah,
flick, swish, swish.
yeah. I'm. When you explain it like that, I'm kind of excited for it again. But it's more because of my sci-fi kind ofness. But yeah, when it comes to the kind of cinema experience, I know that the goal is to mimic it. That's my problem.
Mm,
The goal for everybody is to mimic the cinema experience. So my thing is just go to the cinema
yeah,
as much as you are possibly able to go. And I like my fear of that kind of like I have a small box room and I can't I'm renting and I can't really have a kind of big TV and stuff like that. If you buy a headset, there's a story about how they're doing that to cows, and it really freaks me out about that kind of thing, where they're showing cows fields even though
yeah,
they're in tiny factories. It really scares me that that's a possibility if that's how humans can then interact with the wider universe, and it's just like go touch grass.
yeah.
Um,
Do,
like that's a, so
do
that's
you
a
understand
it's a
that's how the
scary
Matrix could really start people? That we are all basically pod people having a virtual world fed to us. Oh dear. Yeah, no,
yeah.
I'm with you.
Let's not build the technology for the machines ourselves. Let's
Yeah.
have them have to go through the iterations before,
Let's
like,
make
and don't
them
get me
build
wrong.
Terminator. Let's not do it for
Yeah,
them.
like the Oasis in Ready Player One is a fantastic kind of virtual space and stuff. But that's because if you look at the physical world, it's a mess.
Hmm.
So like, I don't want that to be the case.
Yeah.
So like, yeah, but it's a mixed experience. I don't. I think this could be a positive thing in allowing people to mimic theater, but you should definitely go to the cinema. It's just
Yep.
so much.
And Paul, I think, good luck to Meta, Apple, and everybody else in this space. I really do, Paul, hope that they develop the technology to the point where we can have sunglasses and have that replace your phone for all sorts of reasons. I'm not against that. Like I say, it's like every other piece of technology. And I think you said it really well. It's not something that should ever be trying to mimic cinema since cinema already exists. Technology can coexist. It doesn't, streaming didn't have to replace cinemas. This doesn't have to replace actual screens and, you know, non-inch from your face viewing. So, if anybody wants to sponsor us and give us an Apple Vision Pro, we'll happily try it out and change our mind. But there is zero chance that we're buying one, Paul, unless you have $4,000 lying around that you haven't told me about.
No, I just came right back from Japan. I don't have any money left.
Good point, actually. Good point. And yes, look forward to some Japan-related content on the channel very, very soon. Since Paul has got some cool stories that I want him to share with not just me, with everybody else. So on that note, Paul, like, I think, and thank you, Brian, for all the wonderful interaction. Your last comment is part of why we talked about this. It's making movies more of a disposable product than art. And movies are art. Done well, they're good art. Done badly, they're bad art. Movies are, it's an art form. You don't want to have the Mona Lisa just be replicated on a stamp and see, well, that's just the Mona Lisa. No, that's a stamp with an impression of the Mona Lisa on it.
Can I just say that comment really hits well, because I watched The Menu recently, and my God, that's a great movie. You should definitely go watch it, everybody. But the fact that, yeah, this is creating, streaming itself even is creating kind of disposable content instead of the art of storytelling and stuff like that. It's just it's a hurtful thing. And I definitely think if you watch The Menu, you'll touch that a lot more.
Well, the plan is, Paul, eventually we'll be consuming all the modalities of media at once. We'll be watching 17 screens so that they can get more and more content, which is another word for more and more advertising. Because let's face it, it's not our attention that they want, it's our money. And they equate our attention with their money. So on that very dark note, down with technology, let's bring back wind-up clocks, and that's it.
Steampunk. Let's go steampunk.
Steampunk everything. Paul, great to have you back. Look forward to seeing more of our wonderful viewers and friends next week, when we will be doing something that has yet to be announced. So join us then. It'll be same bat time, same bat channel. You can watch us on YouTube, on your phone, on your TV, or in a cinema, or on a VR headset. I don't care, as long as you enjoy, you like, comment, and subscribe. But most importantly, comment. Let us know what you think of all this.
So, on that note, I've been Paul.
And I've been Patrick.
And we've been Hear Us Out.
I'll see you next time. Bye.
What was that in your hand?
Oh yeah, sorry.